The Necolight Orchestra, the musical collective, had the idea of doing a marathon. The Necolight project is really interesting because there are so many musicians on stage, up to 13. So the goal was to recreate the musicians' stage positions to give a sense of depth of field, which is really difficult to do on a stereo system as we can't get the sensation of distance from the source, though there are some ways that all the sound engineers will know. I wanted to work in Immersive, but we could go one better and use WFS. I had no idea that it would be possible. For me, it was almost utopian. So we still had to define the number of sound sources that were going to enable us to do real WFS. As those who are interested in this technology will know, you need a certain number of speakers in order to create a credible experience. So we tried using 7 sources. Perhaps more would have been better, but nevertheless, it worked. I was confident from the offset. I even went out and bought the speakers in the week as I wanted to reproduce the experience and prepare the way ahead. Regarding the sound system, I used Karas in 7 clusters of 4 attached to a bridge in front of the stage, as well as Kivas in 7 stacks of 2 stacked on the stage. The Kiva stacks, of course, were on the same axes as the Kara clusters. For the mics and consoles, I used 2 Rio 3224Ds, a patch with 60 ins, and a CL5. The appeal of the CL5, of course, being the Dante network, which allows us to interface the SPAT Revolution on the MacBook Pro with a virtual Dante sound card. Using the direct outs, I sent nearly all the sources to the SPAT Revolution, excluding the more complex instruments that require several mics, such as the piano, the harp, or even the strings, on which I always have a DPA and a pickup. So the SPAT Revolution was receiving 50 audio channels, with SPAT's WFS audio engine itself generating 7 more that were attributed to each of the Kara clusters or Kiva stacks. The audio paths of the Dante and the SPAT Revolution passed through the Rio and hit the LA racks in AES. The appeal of the SPAT Revolution is to recreate a dimension. It's capable of generating a space, and in particular, the reverb linked to that space. This is something we can't do in a traditional concert with more standard tools. The concept is compatible with several audio interfaces. It works with Mac's core audio engine, so we can plug that into whatever we like, be it Dante, DigiGrid, or whatever. So we can install a small setup with ease. In about an hour, we can do what we want. I'm not suggesting that we can easily exhaust all of its possibilities, because obviously there are many parameters, but still, after 1 hour, we can create a setup that works. I have to say, I couldn't believe it. Straight away, the sensation is incredible, because we can make the sound sources all but disappear. Obviously, we're used to hearing the sound coming from the speakers, which is still the case, of course. This isn't magic. However, the speakers themselves disappear behind the sound field, that famous synthesized sound field. It's no longer the console doing the mixing or the summation, it's the SPAT. And the SPAT doesn't just do left-right summation, the SPAT does a virtual summation in a virtual space. Perhaps it's that gives so much naturalness to the sources. That's the goal, in fact, to ensure that people are moved by the artist's emotions, and above all, to ensure that instead of having 15 or 20% of the audience in the centre with good seats, you know what it's like. Here, I was walking about earlier, and I'm almost tempted to say that we have 100%. Perhaps I'm exaggerating a little to say that 100% of the audience zone is good, but I really have the impression that we're able to respect the image that we want to portray, no matter where we are, both in terms of depth and breadth. And that's really incredible, because I don't know of anything else that would be capable of doing that on such a large audience zone. So after all these hours of work, what I felt in the Flux studios, or at home even, I also felt here. Better even, inevitably. We don't have the same sound system. It's just incredible. I think that we go beyond that which we can do with stereo, or other known systems. We go way beyond. It's gonna be tough to go back.
Well, look at that. Here we are today, December 16th, release date, release webinar. and so much, excitement around, building, this major update that we have for you. Thank you for tuning in. You're probably listening to one of our channels, being YouTube, on the Facebook user group as well. And we have, as usual, we've been doing these webinars, and as usual, we have the moderators, the Flux team members that are actually going to be answering questions as they come up. Thank you for tuning in again. It's with great pleasure that we're doing this session today. For various reasons, and that includes a guest that I have today, and all this Q&A and opening some conversations with you. So again, for the ones that are tuning in for the first time, my name is Hugo Larin with the Flux Immersive Consulting Group, leading the Flux Immersive, application development, part of the SPAT Revolution project. We'll be talking a lot about SPAT today. You see the slide. This major release is not just about SPAT, but it is major for the SPAT Revolution and the immersive audio basically exploding. We've put a lot of attention into it. Anyway, all that to say, thank you for joining in. Here we are live from Montreal. It is noon. Sorry for being late. This was a bit of a crunch, last minute crunch and organizing thing in the audio and some of the logistics. So sorry, and thank you for your patience. And I will take the time to say hello for the people that are joining from the West Coast very early, or actually in Asia, for the one that decided to stay late for this webinar, which will be available to watch later on, by the way. So yeah, let's actually start and jump in and get the conversation going here. Okay. So, what is for you today? As I said, the 20.12 release webinar and Q&A, and we are hours for the release. You'll be seeing a message. Everyone that actually has a SPAT license, NFR trial, will be seeing the actual announcement in a few hours of the software being available. But today, as I was saying, we have a guest to be discussing all this, and that is awesomeness. And as I said, every single week, there's, this major release is about a huge leap in power and performance. That includes, application and plugging, stability improvements, hardening with all latest OS. We'll be talking about, Catalina, Big Sur, and Apple notarization official support. Complete new multi-core parallel computation algorithm as well for SPAT Revolution. New built-in reporting tools for our application. Complete new versioning system. You may, if you're used to our softwares, we're changing the versioning system to this 20.12 and so on and so forth. And we've got as well, a new option for support and upgrade. So every single license, including, a support and upgrade for a year now. And yes, this update, this major release, SPAT, the Flux Analyzer, all processing is free. Actually, a few hours ago, as I was having a conversation with my partner in crime, the project manager, designer, lead developer, and founder of Flux, we were saying, we're crazy. We're giving this free upgrade, with a shitload of features. But you know what? We really, really wanted to elevate the bar, and we're very excited to do so. We're very, very, very excited to do so. Well, I can stop talking a bit and actually do better than this, and maybe just say, Mr. Gaël Martinet, live from France, sitting in a studio, lead developer, founder of Flux. My friend Gaël, good day.
Good day. Hello.
Yes.
Nico.
Hello. Really great to have you today. We've been, you and I and all the team of Flux, under a lot of stress and pressure to get this release going. Would you agree with that? I can...
Yes.
And I can see that you are tired a bit, but that's okay. I'm tired too. So, sorry for our audience. We've been intense, but it is with a lot of excitement that, we're very proud to deliver this today, and it's great. So this Q&A today for everyone, we're going to be, going through a few slides. We want to leave a lot of space, to you. So start to prepare your questions. Feel free to push them on the user group, on the YouTube channel. The moderators may answer some We've already collected some questions, actually, Gael. You know, later we're actually going to go on some of the questions that were asked on the different social media so we can open conversation, which maybe will generate other ones. But before to do this, I want you to talk about, you know, the Flux framework ultimately, because, you know, as many may not know, behind SPAT Revolution, the analyzer and the processing tool is that Flux framework that you've been developing for, is it what now, 20 years? Are we pretty much on 20? Actually, we because
pretty much.
of the world situation, we did not get to celebrate as a big team, you know, that 20-year anniversary. But yeah, for 20 years, a lot of development on the Flux framework. And you know, let's just start with the natural question, which is hardening with all OSs. And I'm going to jump right into this one because, you know, I can understand as a developer, as a software developer, the thing that you've got to do every day is be chasing these operating system updates, these digital audio workstation updates. So talk to me a bit maybe about, you know, what we've got going with this release. Obviously the Catalina, and maybe you want to talk about more than Catalina a bit. So yeah, maybe you jump in. The famous question I get, the big sure. Let's jump right into Apple stuff then.
Okay, yes, we go. Yes, it has been very challenging period, as you say, developing this kind of application, cross-platform application, and targeting so many different software OS. It's always a challenge, and the most of the problems also is to maintain legacy products and prepare also the future and be ready for what's coming next. And so we spend a lot of months and years to try to improve our code base and make it modern and make it really ready for what we are going to show you tomorrow and what's coming next. So yes, we are really proud to announce the support of all the different platforms. And also that we continue to make legacy platform. We talk about AX, TSP. We talk about the merging RTX stuff, Mascore.
Yeah.
All the different technology are still up to date, and the release contain all update for all the platforms. But we also are just near to release something for the new Apple Silicon platform. So right now the big show on Apple M1 is validated for us, so it's working, but it's still under the Rosetta 2 compatibility mode, but with very, very, very good performances. We are very impressed by the platform. And just for an example, we made a test today with a Mac Mini, and we was able to play 128 sources at 96K, and with just 1024 block size, sample block size, and every source is inside the reverb engine, and everybody with automation, so all the 128 sources moving all the time and without any click, and just under this Rosetta 2 compatibility mode. So it's really promising for the next step, and it shows us also the progress we have done in terms of parallelizing, and the multi-core, the new multi-core audio processing engine inside SPAT Revolution.
Well, so that opens me the door to discuss this. But just before, you know, so people are clear with the, you know, with this own silicon, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, is that currently we are announcing Big Sur compatibility from an OS perspective anyway with traditional Intel platform, yes. No problem. The other point is there's obviously these new silicon ARM computers that have been, you know, shipping from Apple. Granted, we've been validating on our side. Important to know as users, audio interfaces are most not probably, chances are that they may not work. Who knows? Without being tested, we don't know. And obviously, a lot of the digital audio workstation that we rely for SPAT, for our plugins, may not have the updated. So obviously, it is something to watch for and be careful, but it's very promising with the result that you've been showing me. And just to kind of wrap up on this, our current integration to Big Sur and M1 is done with this Rosetta, which is the, how do you call it? The emulator, if you want, or the converter, whatever you want to call it.
Yes,
but we are looking at doing a true native support of this new infrastructure architecture. Yeah, so that's coming. That's ought to be the next month. After you get a Christmas break, get a Christmas break first, and then you can. But if you've opened the door to the, thank you. Yes, okay, pleasure. And you've opened the door to the parallel processing, and that will bring us to talk about SPAT Revolution just a bit, because as you know, SPAT is a very powerful engine. We've been claiming unlimited input and output, obviously always limited by hardware, but we've been claiming a lot of things. There's this multiple room concept of delivering multiple stream formats, some binaural, some channel-based, maybe some ambisonic in parallel. And obviously, add this, all the automation, at all, maybe OSC external control, it puts a lot of pressure on the computer. And granted, we can do a lot with computers today. The truth of the matter is, we need to take control of those core and as much as we can. And for this is thanks to this new parallel computing that you've been working on. And maybe you want to kind of introduce a bit, what this is all about. There's maybe not much to say, but at the base, would you agree that the intention was to be able to give some presets to the user in SPAT so they can actually tune this parallel processing engine, and depending on the type of hardware, if you're on a laptop, if you're on a piece of, a dedicated desktop machine for SPAT, different presets would allow to tune and get the most of the cores, basically, and maybe you want to explore on that.
Yes, the challenge is always the same, to make it working as best as possible in different situations. If you are using a laptop computer, and or if you are using a big workstation, audio workstation, so we have to adapt. Ideally, the parallel engine should be transparent. You should not have any settings and anything to do with the user. But in the real life, we have to go step by step. So there will be probably one or two settings. And especially for a laptop computer, because we discovered that sometimes we have to limit what the software can do. Otherwise, you kill your battery, your energy, and the fan are going crazy, and etc. and blah blah blah. So there will be some kind of profile.
Yeah, and would you say that in some point, because you've talked about laptop, in the case of a laptop, manufacturers will actually tune, the way that they access graphic resources, and they do this for power management reason, right? Because potentially it's on the battery, and obviously, this graphic card is stuck in a very, very tiny chassis. So the way that, the Apple, for example, will tune a laptop is very different than a pure desktop computer, right?
Yeah. Yes, right.
So that is the two differences. Anyway, as you said, it should be transparent to user. We've done a lot of work there. It's part of SPAT Revolution. Could eventually be part of future product, but it is at the core as SPAT. And really, that will bring me to the next conversation, which is from creation to delivery. That's been the big subject around SPAT, and that meant that we wanted to give the ability to a user with a laptop to be able to start to create some large immersive audio multi-channel, although may not having all the resources for real-time delivery, but being able to create offline or create, as a standalone setup, and basically inserting SPAT with your audio workstation. And that means what? That means two heavy application, right? I'm sure that this has been, a tough one as well, because you're fighting for resources with Pro Tools, with Reaper, with, Ableton Live and all the others. And your image actually has did a little jump here. Sorry for that. Let me just fix you up there. There you are. You're fixed. So that brings me to talk about whenever you've dreamt about SPAT Revolution, you basically wanted to have a way for a single machine to bring audio from the workstation to the SPAT Revolution environment back and forth. And the concept was basically, and maybe if I bring some history, right? Prior to SPAT Revolution was SPAT v3 as a plugin hosted on a workstation. But yes, I think we, both agree that the reason that SPAT Revolution came to life is really because we needed flexibility in the routing, more multiple rendering formats, and all the crazy stuff happening in SPAT. But you did not want to lose this connection, this touch to the workstation. So the SPAT plugins, right, the send, the return, and from an audio perspective anyway, and then the room, but these SPAT plugin are now in the equation to bring this integration, get the audio, our famous local audio PAT or the Flux audio pipe technology. Your image is actually shifting again. I don't know why. That's a Skype thing. I'm ingesting Skype in an OBS, and it is doing these funny things. Maybe we ditch Skype next time, whatever. But So yeah, they talk to me about local audio paths and fighting for it, fighting for all workstation. We've done a lot of work as well on making it compliant with, Ableton Live lately, because there's been some challenges there. And every single workstation supports only 2-channel or 8-channel and a channel bus. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task. I'm going to stop talking. I want you to jump in on this. I know it's been your worst nightmare. I'll ask you just a question as a joke. If you had to do it again, would you do it again? Would you bring local audio path to the SPAT Revolution suite or not?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, I like that.
Probably yes. Probably yes, because, when you do the second time, you do it better. So, because And yes, it was challenging also. This was typically the good idea you have one day. Okay, we have a problem. We have only one audio interface and one workstation, one audio software connected to that audio interface. And now, without changing all the routing or all the stuff, and because the driver do not allow us to share the audio channels or whatever, so we have to find a way to send the data to the SPAT and get the results back to the DAW. And so we were thinking, okay, let's do a bridge, let's do something, and or let's look at if there is already a technology for that. So there was, the one from Propeller Head, which called Reason, not Reason, Rewire, yes, and some other technologies, but most of this was not really adapted to what we want to do, especially for the number of channels. We had a very high specification for that. And also, we wanted to transfer automation data, and not through a MIDI channel with only 128 value, but with float precision and much more, and potentially for hundreds of parameters or more. So we decided to start this technology. And it's always a challenge when you are talking about IPCs or inter-process communication. So communication between different applications in different process, and you have to synchronize all that, and while maintaining the lowest latency as possible. because the challenge for audio is always the same, not to get too much latency. And after, you have to deal, with all the specification of the different workstation. For example, in Pro Tools, even if you set the audio playback to 64 samples, and if you put the plugin on a track, you get 128 samples block size, so you have to deal with that. It will be different for another workstation, etc., and blah 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 and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so it's tons of specific problems, tweaking, fine tuning, and
Well, and it's like the process has to be repeated for every single workstation, and then there's a new workstation or a user bringing in a new workstation that has some challenges. It's a huge task. It's a huge task. Congrats,
and one of
really,
one of the main challenge also is to make it stable and against crashes.
Yeah.
If the DAW crash, or if you kill it for a certain reason, I don't know, or if the SPAT is crashing, or we don't know. We have to reconnect. We have to, and that's difficult.
Well, I know you've done huge work there. We used to have this clean shared memory thing. We don't have to deal with this anymore, maybe in some exceptions. Yeah. I've been playing with this stuff. Congratulations. Now, I'm going to bring that, at the base, if someone wants to be creating object-based mixes and render a lot of things, chances are that, a dedicated SPAT computer is ideal. We've been talking about this lately, yeah, sorry. No, I just got a ping webcam, but that's probably not for us anyway. I heard the ping on your side too. We're on the same channel. So, but I was saying that, we've been talking lately about the dual scenario, right? Object-based, you've got objects in your session, you send them, in hardware to other dedicated compute. That's been the ideal scenario. It is for live production, for live streaming, for larger session, for studio setups, but as I said, we want to maintain the ability for a creator prior to get to the studio, prior to deliver live, for a creator to start to send some object, pre-build some automation. And I think one of the greatest thing with this is that you can start with local audio, build your automation, and when you flip the switch off saying, I'm no longer local, all these messages, automation messages, are ready to go to a computer on the network, via OSC, right? So it's basically passing the message to OSC. And that's huge. That's really, to me, a workflow from starting small and going on a bigger setup. Well, and in some cases, yeah. So anyway, good conversation on this one. Good conversation on. I think we could go on for an hour. I want to talk about a bit more SPAT features, and then we're going to talk about the Q&A things. Leave enough space for that as well. So what I'm going to do, maybe one little thing. There's this new error reporting tool that's built in. I think I've covered it already. Anything else you wanted to kind of bring on the table right now? Maybe for now, or we can wait a bit.
Yeah.
Or up to you.
Yeah. There is typically some stuff that a developer postpone all the time, and because you don't have time to do it, or you don't want, or it's complex, or etc. And one of this is the error reporting, and especially in case of crashes, when the application crash, and how you get these reports back to our server, or to analyze the stuff. And so now we, thanks to Sentry, Sentry.com, we implement this new technology inside our software, especially the Analyser and the SPAT Revolution. And so now we can get some information back from and get the problems, and know that especially where it crashed, and it's easier to fix. It's really much more better, and it allows us to increase deeply increase the stability of the
Yeah.
stuff of the software.
And I know just from the beta program, well, we've been in beta, alpha, beta for for a few months now on and working on all this. And Sentry and that reporting became critical and a key turning point to actually fixing all the bugs. Now there will always be bugs. We know that there's known issues, but to be able to clean that list and have reports from the actual machine that it crashed or there was some error in the code is a great thing. I can see the power of it. And yes, it is available. It will be available in a few hours in SPAT Revolution, in the Analyser as well. So if there is some error in the code, there's a crash, unless you don't want to, you can, as a user, de-engage this. But we recommend leaving this on because we get the data. We can collect data and figure out the specific scenario. As SPAT, for example, is an open architecture, you connect blocks in whatever order you want. We obviously can't recreate in advance all these scenarios, and that serves that point very, very well.
One of the important things also is that it's because it's important for us. So all the data are anonym.
Yes.
And it's all GDPR compatible, so it's safe. So you can disable it if you want, but if you want us to improve the stability of the software, it's better to leave it open. And,
Yes. What else? I mean, you and I could talk for hours about this release, about so many things that went on, and we want to get our people to talk a bit. I don't know if there's some questions that are already been building up on online on the user group, and if so, I'm sure we're going to get them pinged by some of the members of the team in our chat so we can cover them. But Gael, I'm going to actually jump on some slides. You're always in my ear and close to my heart as well, for sure. But you're always in my ear. So, if there's something you want to say, you tell me, and I'm going to actually jump back. And this way I can actually jump, I can bring you back in, I can bring you back into the equation. I can bring you back in the equation. We can open the conversation. I'm really going to fly through the features so we can potentially trigger new questions, and then we'll jump right in the Q&A. We'll take a good 15, 20, 30. We'll take all the time, right? You have nowhere to go? Do you have anywhere to go, Gael? To your wife?
No, it's
Maybe
okay.
You have to go to your wife. You haven't been going to her early enough lately.
I probably deserve a beer after.
You want to go for a beer? Really? Yes? You're still allowed to go buy? Yeah, you can go out of your house and go buy beer?
No.
You have a stash?
You
have a stash ready?
No, it's okay.
Okay, so we're going to be jumping, and we'll see each other soon, Gal. Thanks for all this. And we'll talk again in some seconds. Okay. Here we are back. So today's session, right? Well, it was, a lot about, welcoming Gal to this feed. The man has been, leading the team, working very hard. Some of the new developers, we're maintaining the framework behind those applications as well, because everything is tied to this Flux framework. So today, let's just jump on these new features, the update for the Analyser, SPAT Revolution. I'm going to kind of scroll through those. This information will be available online as well as release notes and all this. But let me just kind of go through some of the most requested features and the stuff that's been advancing, and then we'll jump into Q&A. So I hope this makes sense for all of you. Let's start with the SPAT one. And you've been following those webinars. So I'm going to ask the moderators from Flux to actually put the link on the actual YouTube webinars for people who want to watch this later. But we basically delivered 5 webinars on SPAT specifically to talk about the feature set, the features that, that were brought into, into SPAT. And the setup wizardry and integration is at the base. We've just talked with Gael about local audio PAT and the integration. So what this update does is it brings updated templates for Pro Tools. Now, Ableton Live, we have template we did not have. Logic, Nundo, Merging Pyramics, just to name a few of the templates. Re-Evolution, this is huge. Reaper integration to SPAT. Re-Evolution is a series of scripts, that makes the integration. Basically brings an immersive creation. Someone wants to jump in immersive creation, get Reaper application, get Re-Evolution, which is free. It's a resource that we give to their user. easy to create session. We've updated Avid S6L, new select button on the Avid S6L. Gal gave me a little gift. It was the release day gift this morning. But Digico SD Series and SSL Live update. Like a lot of work was done. You can read the things on the screen. A lot of things were done to actually get you started. Being from an hardware setup with the setup wizard, to drag and drop and drag and connect, presets for Ombix. A lot of people are dealing with Ombix and Ambisonic, for example. Like, this is what it is. Well, Avid Pro Tools track preset. You don't want to use a template. Track presets are great. So anyway, a lot of things around, setup wizard and getting you to be mixing, to play audio, to have fun as quick as possible, and don't have to scratch your head for hours on how to set up your system. Oops, my face needs to be moved a bit. Sorry for that. Yeah, that's the thing with with doing PowerPoints, right? There it is. Better. Yeah, never know where your face is going to land when you're doing an overlay. So you're mixing your objects. So setup is done. Now you're ready to mix your projects. And that was another huge part. New source and speaker name tab. As you select a source, you see his name. Little things like this. Being able to create static image cues with a new snapshot system. Source transformation. 4 new Lemur templates for remote control. So having a side dock with touchscreen, for example, is new as well. We've got the ability to control active selections now, and these new acoustic presets, simulation presets, coming from the EarCam Verb and SPAT V3 plugin. And last but not least, complete update to the Yukon page table. So mapping to Avid Control S1, S3, S4, S6, and all the S's in the Avid family, including the S6L behind me. So that's called a page table. Complete update. So that really is getting you to mix and have grabs, access, snapshots, images as fast as possible. And as we move on now, and you see my face is still not at the right place. I'm about to remove my face from the live feed. Panning methods and spatialization technique. That's another huge one. You've heard the presentation was 2 weeks ago, maybe. WFS, wave field synthesis, is part of, of the testing anyway. Not released yet. Well, it's going to be released with the live production option license, which is required, but it's completely active and it's part of this major update. Now we've got all the panning in the world, but added layer based amplitude panning and the dual band VBAP, new pannings in binaural, doing near field now, for example, added some transcoding methods and supporting Sennheiser, Ambeo, Soundfield Rode, and more microphone, A format, as an input source. So, right, if you're grabbing something with one of the Ambeo mics or on one of the Soundfield, or I should say Ambisonic A format mic, all the transcode presets are there for you now, making it simpler. So, a lot's been going on. The list is long and long and long, from managing speaker arrangements, import speaker from Adamson. So all these simulation software, Adamson, Coda Audio, which is releasing today, Optimizer, Nexo NS1 system, D&B Audio Technique, Ease, or just purely XL data, ability to modify the arrangement, offset because of the reference point. I mean, the list is long, and our friend Nicolas, which is online, probably somewhere on the moderator line, was actually responsible quite a bit of making this panning tips and tools available as well. As you create speaker arrangement, you can see which panning are valid because, yes, arrangements are tied to this. We had a great webinar on this, dealing with speaker arrangements. The moderator can probably share with you if you want to watch this session. We cover a lot of that. Yeah. And then, well, the OSC, and this was called OSC refactoring. I actually renamed it yesterday to the OSC factory. Oh, yeah, to the OSC factory, and that's really what it is. We've did a complete refactoring, and that includes ADM-OSC support. But the work on the OSC, really makes you can think about transformation, rescaling. Basically, SPAT is a lot becoming a converter, a translator, for incoming message to outgoing messages, a bridge, an OSC bridge in a lot of way. So the complete refactoring was done on this one, adding more slots, presets for the common products. You want to connect to an S6L, to the plugin, to the this, predefining port numbers. You have less steps to get you going. Importantly, is the support on the input of new grammars, the EarCam ADM mix, SPAT, and Meyer Sound space map go on input. And then on input and output, yes, this industry initiative of the ADM-OSC. I'm not going to talk about this today, but check this out. This is basically, building a live production workflow environment where all renderers, editor in the equation all speak a base language, because that is a challenge as we grow into the object-based audio right now in our industry. More grammar expanded, supporting snapshots as well. So yeah, the OSC was a major one. So we can jump on the SPAT Q&A or not. Maybe if the guys want to ping me some things, I can maybe bring Gael back at one point. You know what? I'm gonna keep going. I've got 3 more slides, and we'll jump only on Q&A, any subject. I think that would make more sense at this point. This way, Hugo's slideshow can be done, and I can bring back Gael, and we can finish this with an open conversation. Now, the Analyser, our lovely Flux Analyser. This one would deserve a lot more love. We wanted to do so much. The list of things to do on this one is huge. You already know about the fact that the Analyser is a multi-channel analyzer. We had this for a while, this multi-channel module. But now with Immersive, you can imagine how, this can grow. But nonetheless, the Analyser did get, some... it's actually moving too. I didn't remember I made this little action. But the Analyser did get, you see my face is always in the way. Hugo, you're in the way. Move. That's it. I'm becoming good at moving myself. But so basically behind the Analyser, obviously same story, eh? I mean, making it more efficient, CPU, GPU, like it's part of it's still part of, the Flux framework update and that major release. But then on the feature specific, is a new loudness metering conformance for broadcast and streaming, Netflix, Spotify, Tidal, Apple. The long list is there. You can see it on the right. So obviously a lot of people have been streaming, so we've made sure that we've updated this loudness metering section. Sorry for that. Revised the loudness meter at the same time to make it clearer. Some new perceptual color maps are being there. IDPI or Retina support. I've put it there. Some people could say, well, it's just part of the improvement and the yarding. Well, truth of the matter is that was quite a bit of work. The performance of Analyser is just to the other level now. Added musical note peak display as well. As part of this. And for the people that did not realize, when we actually we installed the Flux Analyser, you have 2 Analyzers. The standard Analyser, which is good for everyday work, live system. But we have this high precision, the 64-bit high precision version. To be reminded, we call it the HP version, the high precision version, is part of all these install available. Bunch of improvement as well on other aspect, external AR loading for, visualizing basically impulse response, and so on and so forth. OSC support is another one on this one. So the Analyser gets some love. We've got a lot more things that we want to do, but, this is a major, just from a performance perspective, the whole feeling with the interface is mind-blowing really right now. And we're not done, and many fixes. I mean, there's always fixes. I don't want to go through that. I don't want to bother you with that list, that's for sure. Now, let's talk about what? Let's talk about the plugin processing. Again, this was hardening, like, ever before. IDPI, Retina support as part of this, enhancement on display, fixes, and then, some features as well, such as, being able to do protease gain reduction metering support was added there. Well, I've talked about the Yukon. No, it's not. I see Gael reacting. He's not live. Was not done. Was supposed to be done. It's on the list. Sorry. Maybe I'm wrong there. He's going to tell me when I bring him online later on. Yes, so the Yukon page table I've talked to you about that was done across the board for SPAT is as well for all the plugins with Avid control. OSC control with the plugins. We've actually going to publish the grammar, the OSC grammar to control these plugins. IDPI, Retina support, and display enhancement and fixes. Now, as we're, talking about, these beautiful processing tools, the EarCam tools is an important part. You've been seeing the logo. SPAT Revolution is part of that family, although it's not a plugin anymore. But we've actually made quite a bit of enhancements and work on these EarCam tools. The EarCam Reverb now supporting up to 16 channel, Atmos and multi-channel support up the way to 16. EarCam Ear official. We fixed some stability issues to make it work with up to 10 channels. So 7, 1, 2, if I still know how to count. Yeah, 7 plus 1 plus 2 is 10 channels. And then, fixed a lot of the audio I/O matrix and the multi-channel, basically, and some enhancement on the EarCam tools as a whole. Now, talking about our lovely friend EarCam SPAT V3, we are not building an update. Why is this? Well, the simple answer is the proposed cross-grade to SPAT Revolution. It's been hard to maintain. It's blocking time. It would need a complete revamping if we really wanted to do something. So the SPAT V3 is not being released. Cross-grades are offered at a very attractive time to get into SPAT Revolution. Anyway, we can't be limited by the OS, and what we're trying to achieve with immersive creation right now is way too, too complex for, what we've got going there anyway. So yeah, and many fixes and fixes and fixes. This list is going to be published. So let's get to, to talk Q&A style, and we'll get back my friend Gael, which is probably still alive. Are you still alive? I am. And you are still alive. That's great. Okay, so let's jump on those Q&As. Let's jump on those Q&As. We'll take questions for all, from any directions. My friend Arsène Martinet, which is our community coordinator, is probably there online somewhere. He's been doing an amazing job, since he joined the company some time ago. But in the meantime, I'm actually going to start, just to ask some question. One question regarding SPAT, anyway, had to do, and Gail, maybe, you can take this one. It's a simple answer. But, mixing binaural for a live performance, but where the audience is actually at the perspective of the video camera, right? That famous listening position that can change or that can be tracked. So is that possible with SPAT? I know the answer, but I'll let you answer that question. I know Eric Munch, one of our tester, actually, gets quite involved there. He's not the only one. But talk to me about this flexibility of the listening point of view.
Yeah, yes, it's possible, and we fixed the listener position. So now it's really 6 DOF compatible, and so the 6 degrees of liberty, and so it's working for binaural, but it's also working for high order ambisonic. Okay. And even for channel base, if you want, if you find an interest to do so. But it was mostly done especially for binaural and for high order ambisonic. So yes, you can move the listener outside of the listening area and everywhere you want, tilt it. Pitch.
So for example, you could, and so this is automatable with SPAT Room or no? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Right. So with the SPAT Room plugin, and then you can obviously do this with OSC as well, right? So you could send an OSC command to change the position. So I guess you could have some presets, right? You can send an OSC message for position 1, perspective 2, right? But then could you actually track? You could track as well. Yeah, I guess.
Yes, you can track. With the black tracks.
Black tracks could be one option, or any ones that spits out OSC tracking data. Yeah. So that was a question from Dylan. Dylan, a Canadian folk like me. Is he Canadian? Yeah, I think you're Canadian, Dylan. And if you're not, sorry for that. I know you are in Canada most of the time. The compatibility with the M1 Max, I think we've answered this one. So it's running good. Watch with the silicon, with the hardware, the hardware support. Like, for example, I broke, some of my audio hardware on Big Sur on one of my machine here in the back. So yeah, and that has nothing to do with SPAT Revolution or the application. And that was, Mr. Dolinskas that asked this about this compatibility. Well, we're working hard. We've got some kits. We've received a new system yesterday as well at the office in France where the development team is. Another question, and that question has to do with Pro Tools Ultimate. And it really had to do with, hey, I want to do a 13-channel return, or a 32 channel, or 46, and then, well, yes, the reality is Pro Tools supports only 16 channel ambisonic third order. And we've answered this one, and that's basically the fact that, you know, you can return from SPAT to multiple returns, handling your first 8 channel, your other. That's what we're doing in our templates. I welcome basically looking at templates for this. But basically the point is a ambisonic bus is a 16 channel bus. There's nothing special about it, right, Gal? And that's one thing that people have oh no, I don't want to do ambisonic. Well, the truth of the matter is it's a bus. It just happens to be 16 channel, and you don't need to load it. And you could even load it if you want, you know, with different things. Really, it's a bus. Right?
Yeah. Yes, right.
Goods. Well, you know, a question that Anthony Kuzub, another Canadian, why so many Canadians? I guess I only get questions from Canadians. But our friend Anthony asked, you know, about, we've talked about, you know, importing speaker arrangements into SPAT. And that's something that, you know, I think is very important to talk. But when you import, or when you create a speaker arrangement, or when you import, and the question started when he was asking, what are we importing into SPAT with these new import? And we're just doing basically the positions. It's the speaker name and the position. And he was asking about, well, why you're not getting the orientation of the speaker? Why you're not taking care of that piece of data? And, well, the answer is, Gal, what's the answer on that one?
It's simply because currently we are not handling any kind of orientation or speaker specification in terms of diffusion, aperture, or pressure, or a spectral envelope. So for us, it's just we are going up to the speaker, yep, and that's it. And perhaps in a future version, we will do it differently, but it's not a priority right now to integrate this orientation of the speaker.
We're doing panning here. If you're doing angular panning, you know, or, you know, pairwise style panning between two speakers, the orientation is not something that the panning engine takes right now. That's why we're not importing this data. But the reason I wanted to bring this question up as well is that visually, you see speakers turn. When you are using vector-based panning in SPAT, you see speaker turn all pointing to the listener, right? So that maybe is why people think that there's a concept of orientation. But the truth of the matter is, this orientation is only a visual representation that you are in a panning method that is sweet spot listener-oriented, right? That was the intention for this, yes, right?
It depends on the panning type.
So what are the panning types that we actually do that don't have it? You know them by heart. I know them too, but...
GBAP is different. KNN is different. And
our new friend, WFS.
And our new friend, WFS. But it will perhaps be different. It will depend. WFS, it will depend on the speaker configuration. If you just do a front, you can consider that you can have a multiple or a very large sweet spot. But if you are doing a cycle or a square, you have a kind of sweet spot. So it will depend on the speaker arrangement. Yes.
We have some questions coming in. Let's pick up some. Mastro is asking, is there an undo redo button now? Oh, I should have didn't.
It will be. We modernize a lot of stuff to be able to do it in a very near future. But
so currently the answer is no.
There is still no.
Maestro asked another question. Did you guys create a macro to control multiple function with one num or button? Well, the question is not clear then. I'm not too sure what you're referring about on this one. Yeah.
This is typically some stuff we have in our to-do list. Having this ability to create a kind of performance page with buttons, the button or your control you want, and then to link the parameter you want on the controls. But it's not done right now. But if you are comfortable with scripts, you can do it with Python.
With SPAT,
but
yes.
It's another story. With Python,
no, but
and it's another story. but you can do it if you want. So.
Okay. Your face is actually all gone wrong again. Not wrong. It's just we don't see you properly. Let me fix this. So I'm asking the moderators to filter out a bit of. There you are. To filter out from Kim. Okay, now let me just pick some question. Control Z Music. Did you have to manage with Metal or still using OpenGL? Yeah, that's a very valid question, right? On the graphic side.
We are still using OpenGL right now, but we are in the process of moving to Metal. And it will be available in a future version. But we spend a lot of time optimizing the graphic engine, so it's really much more powerful now. And which is a shame because it's deprecated by Apple, and then we have to move to different technologies. But we are going to do it. And so you can expect even more better performances in the future. Yes. But we are still keeping a 3D engine inside the SPAT Revolution because we really focus, we really want to have no compromise between the audio engine and the smoothness of the graphic interface, and especially with automation, we want to see everything moving smooth and being able to add this Nebula analyzer or different stuff, even the metering, and so it's important for us to keep focused on the graphic engine.
Well, and as you're talking about this, we actually have basically work on isolating this graphic user interface and have, basically SPAT engine eventually, while part of live production, scenarios work without the UI, server client mode, right? That's something that's coming up, eh? That's part of it as well.
Yes, we can. It's really now really well working. We can kill the user interface while playing audio without any click, and rebuild the user interface if we need at any moment without stopping the audio processing. So it's very powerful, I guess. And it's the first step for the server version. Yes.
Let me throw another question. How can you move a group of sources which are tied together in the sound field and performing a rotation simultaneously? Someone was trying to do some automation, and to do this. So
you have to do it with multi-channel sources or with a multi-selection, and then you can move it you can move the azimuth of the global selection, and then move the Z rotation and make it moving. So I think it will do that. But if you want to do this, you should have a controller if you want to do both at the same time, or you have to make a kind of automation, two-pass automation. But
the point is that, a multi-selection, so multiply selected sources or objects, or an actual multi-channel object is always kind of working the same way, where the barycenter, the center of mass, is what you use, and you can actually rotate and manipulate, I should say, around this, correct? Yeah,
yes.
It's all based around that. So, yes, ZenWap was asking that question. He wasn't maybe not getting the success, but it should be working. I know you're on the old version. Maybe that's a bug as well. Who knows? So that's maybe a question related to the old version. Let me bring other question. Is it preferable for a dual setup, SPAT and Pro Tools on the same machine, to have more cores and more core speed on the processor? So do you want a 12-core 4 gig or a 36-core 2 gig? Well, the question started, is it preferable for dual setup?
It depends on if it is a laptop computer or if it's a desktop workstation. If it's a desktop workstation, you will probably prefer multiple cores. because you can.
And that's what he's talking about, a 12 core and a 36 core machine. So we know for sure he's not talking about laptops here. He would be talking maybe about a Mac Pro machine or a custom built PC. And I guess the question is, would you rather have less cores, higher speed, than a 36 core 2 gig, for example? So what would you pick if you had to build something, Gal, is the question. A 12 core 4 gig or a 36 core 2 gig, you know?
The multi-core things take some CPU for the synchronization. So if you can avoid using too many cores, it can be a good idea. But again, it depends on the processor itself. So for a desktop computer, I think you can probably count on multiple cores. I will go with the multiple cores personally.
So more core, yes. Lower speed. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually,
it depends. Especially if you want to do some very huge setup
sessions. Yeah.
Session. Yes.
Yeah, but at the base, let's just say that, you know, the new parallel processing and the fact that we can actually now tune this, although it will be behind the doors and not necessarily to the users as the first step, is something that we could start to look at as well. And it really depends of the session and the size, as you said. So,
the last interesting things about this parallel engine is that you can choose the number of core you want to use. So you can limit the SPAT Revolution to use, for example, 2, 4, or 8 cores. And if you have a 32 core machine, you can dedicate 16, for example, to SPAT Revolution, and the other 16 to Pro Tools.
And am I correct saying that, you know, on a laptop, smaller systems, you know, these optimized systems, smaller packages, we typically are looking at doing less core distribution and making sure we load the cores, taking potentially less cores, where with a desktop machine, if we add the ability to have a 36 core machine, we would be spreading, you know? That's kind of the two profiles that we've talked about, where on a desktop machine, which has a lot of cores, you know, we basically go for a distribution to kind of balance out, I should say, the distribution there. Where on on a laptop machine, on even potentially Mac Minis, these computers that have compromised, that have power management, the strategy is a bit different, where you're kind of wanting to load the cores as much as possible, potentially not taking all your cores, maybe saying, hey, I've got an 8-core machine, I'm taking only 4, 6, or 8, and not the 8-core 16-thread, let's say, on a laptop like you and I are using right now, right?
Right, because on a desktop computer, on a laptop computer, especially the Apple computer, if the temperature of the CPU is going too high, the OS will decrease the CPU frequency. So if you take all the cores, the temperature will go very high, very quickly.
And then it's going to reduce, it's going to reduce your speed.
Yeah. Yes, and reduce the speed. So it's probably better to try to load maximize as much as possible the first core before using the second one, etc. But it depends. There is different scenarios. But there's not only one.
So you see, we gave a 5-minute answer to the question was, should I go for many cores? The answer is yes. You've got a desktop machine loaded up with cores, and the parallel processing that we've got will allow for that nice distribution, not putting pressure. And we're obviously in these scenarios not as concerned with all the other stuff that laptops were dealing with. Okay. Question about, Pure Analyzer. What about the live option of Pure Analyzer? Is there new features that live sound engineers desperately need to lead, like a better way to classify the saved curved? This is coming from Undermonkey. You know Undermonkey? You've heard that one before, that question, Gail? A better way to classify the saved curves.
We have... as you said, there is a very huge list of to-do and things we promise to our user for the Analyzer, but we was focused on the framework and modernize everything, make it very well working, stability, etc. As you say, and now we are going to improve all this user interface things, especially for the snapshots and also. So there's some new feature, but not so many in this update. But it will come very soon.
And I guess we could say, one of the key thing was, the reliability, stability, hardening. That was the major thing, which took a lot of work, and just the overall response, the performance of the analyzer, and some features. But yes, the live guys have been asking some features. We know them. There's a long list, but there's always things to do. But it will come. It will come. No dates, but we'll give it some love for sure. We have to get ready when live shows will happen again. We'll need to tune PAs at one point, and we want to count on our Flux, analyzer. That's for sure. Other interesting question. Can you explain a bit more about transoral? ZenWap explained this. Some people tell me, transoral is more experimental than anything. For the people that don't know, transoral is the ability to take a binaural mix and transcode it to transoral to be able to listen on speakers. Funny, I've done this test myself, taking a binaural down transoral to my pair of speakers on my laptop, and I was actually surprised on some of the result. Now, maybe you want to, jive in on this one. Basically, he's asking for explanation or what transoral is all about,
We probably do not have a lot of time to explain everything in depth, but yes, it's a kind of experimental implementation because transoral is quite always experimental. Everything depends on the filters you are using, just to adapt to the material and try to respect the timbre and to match the speaker setup.
Depends on the speaker setup, the position, the filtering, the content. There's a lot of aspects that makes it work or not work. Huh?
Yeah. Right now we have something inside the SPAT Revolution that is working for stereo speaker setup, but we can imagine to go
on larger systems
to get more speaker. But there was some research at the IRCAM and at the Paris, the CNSMDP at the Paris Conservatory. And we will try to integrate this research in the future, but we don't know when exactly.
And that brings me to a good thing to say, and obviously salutations to our friend at the IRCAM, if some of them are watching. Everyone needs to realize that what is in SPAT is, years and years of research from the IRCAM, which is being packaged in a standalone software. But one thing that we did not do and wanted to do was not to limit the technologies, So we're actually delivering a lot of things. I'm not saying that are experimental, but that are very specific to the content. We could talk about transcoding methods and ambisonic. Ambisonic is an amazing world, but it's a mind-boggling world because it's, there's always a new way and an alternative way, and when this one will work better in this scenario. Yes. But the intent with SPAT Revolution, and thanks to that project, Gal, was obviously to bring those possibilities as much as possible, to the users. So yeah, little kind of point on the IRCAM thing. How about the coming server version of SPAT? Does it require a new license? I can use my license on my iLock. Yes. It is the live production, which includes WFS. The live production is a separate license. We're basically adding support and features specifically for the live production, not just live sound, live broadcasts. We're talking about, main and backup machines. So yes, there's an extra license will be available at one point. That was one question. Maestro is asking, did you guys add more room and spaces? And I'm not sure. The answer is no. It's unlimited room and unlimited spaces in some ways already. Now, the limitation is the hardware and what you're driving. So the answer is you can add by pressing the plus sign as many rooms as you want until your computer explodes. Right? Is that the good answer, Gal? I'm just kidding.
I don't know if it was perhaps talking about the reverb
Ah,
and the typical reverb,
and more
the
rooms and
room,
spaces. Ah, okay.
the acoustic. Yes, and so we have some
Yeah,
preset now,
23. Yeah.
but everything is based on the same engine. So you can manipulate now everything to get different feeling and different spaces, but still on the same engine. And we are working to integrate more feature for the reverb engine with the ACAM, but right
Yeah.
now it's still the same
Yeah.
engine.
One thing, that
Yeah.
we work on a project recently, and I love this, I mean, using room space and basically moving a source from room one to room two and to basically move the source in different spaces with a different reverb engine. That works great when you want to really
Yes.
try to create, a story. You're into storytelling and immersing the audience, connecting the audience with what's going on. And this works just flawlessly, basically, a source, an audio input can it multiple sources in multiple room, and you can then start to crossfade which one is active and activate one and deactivate the other. Very, very, very powerful. Other questions? That one I'm going to keep for the end. You see, I get the luxury to decide which questions. Well, we've covered this one. There's more coming. The live production, more rooms. Well, let's show it right now on the table. What does the implementation of ed tracking in the new Apple headphone and AirPods inspiring you for the immersive audio and SPAT monitoring? Aha.
I have this
Do you have you have AirPods? Yeah.
headphone, AirPod,
You didn't
the
buy the
small
big ones
one,
yet.
not the big one. So it's on my to-do list to try to connect to their SDK or API or whatever. But to be honest, we haven't found the time
Yeah.
right now to do it. So we hope that somebody will do something with an OSC output just to feed
So
the
if there's
listener
other
position, and
other
then
developers on the line and have nothing to do over Christmas, spit out some OSC for those. We'll give you some credit for it, and we'll get that going.
yes,
Yeah. So it's a lack of
yes.
time. I mean, I would let me just put it this way. The following months for SPAT will be about live production, but as well, VR, ed tracking. We can do a lot of stuff, but the VR workflows, and I can even I can't disclose. I'm under NDA, but there's some other side projects as well that kind of tie nicely to this. But yes, the ed tracking aspect is important. Well, you know what? Let me be funny. What's your name? Ambio ASF. There's your ed tracking for you. This was a DIY for $30 with the software. Spits out OSC with my sure works great. But yeah, no, just a little joke apart. Ed tracking is possible. We rely on OSC for now. We could even talk about OpenVR and the fact that in the framework we support OpenVR, so we're open to start to do some interesting things there. But thank you for the question. That's a very good one. It does inspire me. I'm sure it can inspire Gal. I haven't listened to the performance of those headphones yet, so I don't know. Are we doing on time? Yeah, we're just, because we started late, we're just over an hour, so that's not bad. We've been trying to keep around 1:15, although sometimes Hugo goes and talk, and does the peddler thing. That's what Gal says. Let's see, Gal, my Gal, but Arsene, my friend, if you've got anything. I've got 2-3 more questions on my list. That was to do with hardware. Okay, will the update support OS X 10.12, which is Sierra? And the answer was yes, and it is now the minimum requirement across the board. Correct, Gal? Yep.
Yes, correct.
Will you update all our softwares? You've got that answer already. Indeed, Takashi-san asked this, and yes, we are updating all products. Some are loaded with features. I mean, Arning, you've heard the story, but it's across the board. Greg, Data Lab, is sample rate not supported in WaveLab Fix? Ooh, Ping Vincent. Yes, sorry, I had to write myself a note, Ping Vincent. And we'll say a little hello to Vincent, who's in charge of our support in France. I'm not sure about this answer, but if someone online got the answer, maybe you have it.
Anyway, what I can say is that we haven't correct every bugs right now.
Yes.
So, but we will still be focused on delivering bug fixings every weeks or months. So it's just a start. We do this release, and then we will continue to fix stuff. And we implement a new workflow that allows us to deliver new version now very quickly.
Yes, well, you know what? And as you're opening on the subject, I think we're going a bit through a paradigm shift and a development strategy shift. You've been implementing this for the last year and a half. You know, the company's growing. The immersive world is, you know, exploding for Flux Immersive, and obviously, you know, the plugin and the multi-channel processing, and you know, eventually being able to do a 64-channel limiter, and then the analyzer that's, you know, is a multi-channel analyzer that's, you know, just about to explode with features. So, but the point was that, you know, you did change a bit some of the approach, you know, I think in 2020, and yes, I guess we could talk, you know, without making promises, that will go for smaller cycles. I think you want to change a bit of the strategy of the cycles, not as big releases, more, you know, more shorter sprints, right? So some of the mentality, I guess, the development mentality has been changed a bit, or is evolving, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will definitely we switch to a small iteration, so more agile, technique of development and small iteration. So you can expect to have now to have updates.
Well, and the team is growing, and we've got some great new dev resource. I can say hello to Florian, and we've got our quarterbacks, you know, Lorcan and Maxence have been there for a while, but then you know, these young Padawan, we call them. They're not developers. They sit on the verge of well, they are. I mean, I'll say hello to Jean-Loup. That's probably on. They're starting to be, but they're basically, you know, Nicolas, Erard, and Jean-Loup, who are actually sitting between application. They're musicians. They're mixing engineer. Actually, Nicolas graduated yesterday from the CNRS in Paris. So that was
NSMGP.
Yeah, sorry. The CNRS. Yeah, same thing. That's not the same thing. But yes, the Conservatoire de Paris yesterday. So congrats to Nicolas. But they sit between application. They're musician, recording engineers, but they can do Python scripting, which has been powerful for SPAT. Nicolas has been behind a lot of the conversation. But whatever. The team is growing. The dynamic has changed. And then you've got, you know, the peddler and the peddling team that puts pressure on features. So yeah, there's an interesting new dynamic. But yes, Greg, if it's not fixed, we'll fix it. The support team and the release note will be able to tell you about this. Previous webinars, yes, they're all available, right? There are all our webinars, moderators, please push them. Setup wizardry and ease of configuration, dealing with speakers, snapshot system, new panning and spatial techniques, OSC refactoring. There's 5 of them. You can watch them. There was a question if you had the ability now in SPAT to export speaker configuration. The answer is yes, but to Flux IO config format, which is to move your speaker arrangement, to prepare an arrangement for another user, for example. But there's no other format, so I guess they wanted to see, you know, some raw data export, which is something that we could consider for sure, now that we do it on the import from Excel, for example. So that was from Bianca, in another Canadian. Come on. Those Canadians, they ask questions all the time. We have more questions maybe from the live chat. Arsène, Nicolas, Jean-Loup, Felix, another quarterback that's been from a long time, Felix, which is sitting in Spain somewhere. Maybe.
And you forget Alexis.
Yes.
Which is one of our main developers now.
Yes. Roquette. So that.
And Francis.
Yes, well, I haven't named the full team. You want me to start listing the names? You know what? We should bring everyone on little cameras on screen next time. No other questions so far. Alternative. I had a question. Are there alternatives to Wine for Linux compatibility?
No. Right now, no. We are we think about doing a Linux version, but as always, it's a question of time. So we are still a small team, and we can't target all the different OS. But we are not far away to be able to release this Linux version. But it will not be until, I guess, at least 1 year.
Yes. That was from Kim Ngo, but yeah, no alternative really. But Linux, yes, is something we're considering. Obviously, I don't know if your environment is SPAT, Kim, but yes, for SPAT Revolution and other product could make sense for various things. So let me just scroll on there. SPAT version we've covered, Pure Analyzer Live, Room and Space, Z tracking, yeah, SPAT workflow, with Max MSP from Cycling 74. Yeah, there are plenty ways to do this integration. There's no per se things. And I'm going to let Jean-Loup, that's probably online, answer this one. And I'm not sure Gael wants to get into this right now anyway. Jean-Loup and Nicolas would be good resources to answer this question about workflow with Max MSP.
We have some requests to support different plugin formats for now, just to send the data audio to the SPAT and vice versa. But so we are considering adding the Unity format and also Max MSP format also, just to be able to send data to the SPAT. Yes. But it's not done right now. And perhaps Wise also and Fmod or all the different engines that are used currently. But again, it's a question of time. We'll do it in the next coming year. Yeah.
Yes. Right passes. No. So I'm done with these questions here. I hope I did not forget anyone, and if I did, I'm really sorry for it. There was one thing about computer, and I guess I think we can maybe make a little thing on this one. Let me just make sure I did not forget anyone from the previous question. Yeah, just one last one here, unless there's others that are coming in. But about hardware recommendation for SPAT Revolution, And the question was, well, should I use a laptop? Do I need, an 8-core, machine, and so on and so forth? And the famous question of hardware. By the way, with the release is some hardware recommendation. It's going to be part of the user guide on the product page of SPAT, basically to try to talk about at least two scenarios, the standalone with your audio interface, single computer, and obviously often the preferred dual computer setup. But at the base, the question is difficult to answer because, what's the channel count or sources? What's the sample rate? What's the expected latency? Which is a huge part as well. If you're in a live production, you're expecting low latency, the conversation is a bit different. Is it for live production? What's the audio interface? Because we rely on those audio interfaces, which have an impact on latency, which will have an impact on computer performance, depending on the quality of the driver as well. So it's a complicated question to answer. But the answer to it, because it was a lot around live production, was to keep in mind that at the base, currently, SPAC is a graphic heavy and needs a graphic acceleration, a graphic card to function well, right? Yeah, we've talked about this. We
don't really need a very high-performance graphic engine. We just need a not too bad graphic engine. It's different, because there is some, especially for example, if you are using an hybrid stuff with an Intel graphic engine with an Intel processor, and just the Intel graphic engine, the drivers are not so good, and there is some problems with the shaders, and I will not enter into all the detail, but so we do not recommend Intel graphic engine for now. So, but if you are using an AMD or NVIDIA, it doesn't have to be a very high performance one.
But I think
just not Intel.
I think the question, because the question was around using a laptop maybe for live production, there's nothing wrong with it, but just watch, like these Mac Mini, for example, good example of a computer that, relies on this hybrid or, on the Intel, which has been limiting some of her capabilities to make it, powerful. Again, I would say that, who was asking this question? David Orn. David, obviously the live production option package that were coming definitely be an answer to take most of, Mac Mini smaller machines. From a laptop perspective, these i9 8-core that you were referring on your message is exactly what, most of the people in the team is using. I'm using it, Gal's using it. We're all on the latest, Mac laptop. So in theory, this should be a solid place anyway. They're very good machine. You have to watch for something, by the way, which is, temperature, the temperature management. If you're using external screen, these machines have a tendency to start, yeah. Gal is doing some weird faces. I don't know if you could see it, but yeah, I should zoom in on his face. Yeah, we've been seeing, some of this, these kernel attack. Oh, did I say that out loud? Yeah, I did. These kernel attack from the systems, as it's trying to do whatever it's trying to do to be an efficient laptop. So, but don't get me wrong, we've got guys. I can say hello to Johnny Torchi. You saw the WFS video, and you've probably seen a little laptop, on the corner with a little white cable connecting to console. People are doing it for live performances, maybe 2 laptop mains and backup. There's nothing wrong. If you're doing hardware and the machine is dedicated, you don't have, Pro Tools DAW and bunch of stuff, that machine is very powerful. Not 3 screens, split screen and touch screens and so on and so forth and being on the net, but hardwire connection to console or the audio feed, receiving audio, Dante audio, for example, if you can bear the high latency of DVS, for example, or better IO interfaces. And that comes to the second aspect, that if you really want to go low latency, PCIe RME HD SP card, PCIe Dante card, or, from Focusrite, Yamaha SSL for audio, whatever. But the point is that, for the low latency, if that's critical, you've got to go to these PCI cards, for an implementation. And potentially some AVB network audio, things that I've seen recently, as far as reaching some low latency. But the point is, yes, yeah, that's what's really going to define it.
It depends on the number of channel you want.
Correct, for sure. But I'm talking about the latency aspect here. If you really want to be, very, very, very low,
Yes, but if you are using AVB or AS67, Ravenna, for example, you can have a very low latency.
Yes, fairly good. Yes.
On the network.
Yes.
So, but you don't have 256 channel.
Yes, exactly.
Otherwise, it will take a lot of CPU also.
So that was kind of cover this conversation on graphic cards. A GTX 1050, 1060. Gal was referring about these AMD or NVIDIA. It doesn't need to be overly powerful. 6 gig card. I would say the entry good cards for gamer is probably a good start. It's a good point. 1660 Super TI or whatever around this, or even lower GTX. I guess our custom machines here on 1060s. My memory is correct. And they obviously perform way better than these dual Mac Minis on the right side, which, yes. And by the way, with SPAT is now the ability to disable NT-alias, which created some problem for Mac Mini specifically, Gael.
Yes, because of the Intel driver.
Yes, back to the Intel driver. We did something specific. Still, it's not amazing. You can't do necessarily very low currently anyway until we maybe do until maybe a server version. But for now, yeah, you still have to kind of play it safe on buffers. But and they're good computers, don't get me wrong. We've got a pair of them there with touchscreen. They work nicely, but yes, to watch. Anyway, we're going a bit over the time as usual, but about an hour and 20 minutes on the stream. I don't see any questions. So I'm going to need my friend Arsène not to get on the microphone because everyone's going to hear you. But I'm going to maybe ping me to say, Hugo, I think we are done. And maybe, Gal, I can, before, we kind of wrap this up. Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for all the work.
Thank you, too. Thank you, too. Thank you, everybody.
For this major release. I know it's been months of work. Well, more than months of work. Even if, there was a few months sprint, but beyond that, the last 2 years, you've been updating the framework. So Arsène is sending me a little ping that he thinks we are done. So yes, here we are to wrap this up. Thank you, Gal. I wish you, a good holiday season and some good time to relax. That's for sure. You're not finished.
Same for you.
Don't go for beer right now because we have a release to do, an official release in a few hours to all our users. Well, obviously going to be welcoming feedback. You'll be pushing all this to you guys. So we're very, very excited to do this as a Christmas gift. I had to be in 2020 as an holiday season. Christmas, I should say holiday season, or for this little the little time that we have coming. And otherwise, yes, I think we're good with question on this side. I want to thanks everyone. And well, you know what, Gail? Let me ask you to wrap this one. Tell me which actual session you want me to play for a little video for the end. You want to go WFS? You want the Close Talker story? Tell me. You want the Corfu session, this little jazz project you mix? Maybe we can throw this.
Yes,
Yeah?
yes.
I hope the levels are good.
Yeah,
I haven't
this one was
tested
good.
level. I think this was remastered by Nicolas. I think we're good, and hopefully it is. So what we're gonna do to go on the wrap up of this, we're gonna send you the Curfew session from Akagera Jazz Band. It was from the Prado studio where our friend Gael was actually getting to mix because he gets to mix once in a while. I play fun with him all the time. I say, you're just a dev, you don't do audio anymore. But the truth of the matter is, yes, being a musician, and second, a sound engineer. So he had the luxury to be in Paris, the studio, for this live stream. Little binaural audio for you guys on this one. It was done on the fly, no preparation. You're talking about laptops for live production. That was on laptop, getting audio feeds. Yeah. Small session though, but yeah, whatever. But the results are interesting. And again, thank you everyone for joining on these webinars. It's been a great pleasure to do those. More webinars are coming, already being planned for the New Year's on various specific subjects. So that's going to be our next thing. Talking about Nundo and ADM-OSC. Talking about maybe some more live being S6L digital. So yeah, there's tons of things. Feel free, on the chat as well, if you have ideas about specific webinars that we should do that would be good for you. But we've been trying, talking about resources. We've got 43 new resources with this release. That different templates, the Lemur templates, the console, the export, import example, plus a user guide that, oh, by the way, I have to go check on a few things. And plus a user guide that's being completely updated to reflect this release with tips and tricks. So we're trying to do, all the work as possible to actually make it, a good experience for you guys. But thanks again. Here's Hugo from the Flux Immersive team, live from Montreal, welcoming today Gael Martinet, the lead developer and founder of Flux, and a good buddy of mine, which I miss. I wish we were together in the same room to go for a drink right now. But I guess we can't travel, I can't travel, I miss it. So I can't wait to see your face, my friend, and give you a big hug.
Same for me.
A big hug for the release. So all this, thank you everyone for watching. Sorry for being late today a bit, but we got through it. So thanks everyone, and I'm sending you the Curfew session from Akagera, mixed by the truly Mr. Gael Martinet here. It would be nice if you could remix it live.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Gael. Have a great day. Let's get that release going. It's exciting. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.